All right, the angels walked with me to the opening, but they left after I went inside the cave. Gosh, I forgot that. I forgot that. I mean, it has been 17 years, right? Hi everyone, it's Candace Craw-Goldman from quantumhealers.com, and I am recording this at the tail end of March 2025, and I'm so excited about something that's coming up. I'm about ready to burst. At the same time, I can't talk about it. I can't talk about it at all yet, and it's not really mine to talk about. Let's just say there's, in my mind, a pretty big surprise coming, having to do with Dolores Cannon and what might be available to the world coming up really soon. Anyway, sorry for that tease, because yeah, it's not mine to tease out, but it will be pretty soon, I think. So once I'm allowed to do that, I will definitely talk to you about that. But let me tell you what I'm doing today. Today I'm reaching back into the quantumhealers.com archives. I'm going all the way back to the very first post, and I'm going to read that to you because, of course, that has something to do with the surprise and all of the things that are going on in my life these last couple weeks. So I have it queued up here for me to read, and I'm going to read you the very first post ever made on Dolores Cannon's support forum for her practitioners of her method of past life regression, which is of course what it was called all the way back in 2008. This post was made, boy, very specifically, because we still have the archives, right? Tuesday, December 9th, 2008 at 9:03 a.m. Let's see if I can get this to work. The entire 9.5 hour drive from Austin to Dolores's workshop in Arkansas, I thought about her class and the fact that one lucky student would be picked to be regressed in front of the class. And I just knew that I would be that student. I was completely confident. I was also a bit unnerved at my confidence. I didn't know how she picked the student or anything at all about what to expect at the workshop. All I knew is that I knew that I would lay my head down on a white pillowcase in front of a bunch of people and be regressed by Dolores herself. During the first day and even into the second, I overheard more than one student approach Dolores and let her know that they would volunteer for the opportunity. I did not verbally offer, and yet Dolores approached me and asked if I would volunteer. I think I cried. Heck, I know I cried. Of course I agreed. She told me that they told her whom to pick. I wrote about the regression on my blog, and it used to be called In Repose. And here are those entries. July 22nd, 2008. What is it like to have a past life regression? Well, interesting to say the very least. I had been waiting on the recorded session to arrive in the mail before writing about it. I wanted to be accurate in my reporting, and with the CD, it will be easy to do, but it wasn't a CD. I eagerly tore open the envelope yesterday to find a cassette tape. Seriously, I have nothing that even plays a cassette tape, not even my truck. And I have been assured that I will get a CD as each of the students in the class, but that will be a longer wait. So what I will do is recap the highlights of my caveman life on another post, the ones I remember without the recording. This article will describe this session itself and what it's like to be hypnotized. Dolores Cannon has hypnotized more than 1,000 people. Boy, this is an old post, isn't it? She started way back in the 1960s and has perfected and copyrighted a special technique to access the deep recesses of the human mind and literally beyond the human mind. She is the author of many books and is also considered to be the world's foremost authority on Nostradamus, having written 3 large volumes gleaned from past life recollections of a man currently incarnated. Currently incarnated into the body of a woman, though, just to clarify. I have only read a couple of Dolores's books, Keepers of the Garden and Convoluted Universe, Book 1. One glance at the matronly Mrs. Cannon, and one might imagine that likely your brain and entire sense of reality will be challenged if you attempt reading any of her books. So, back to the regression. After the interview session where she gets to know you and a bit about your life and your concerns and what you might like to learn or heal in your life, she writes down the questions you have. Anyone I know would have 100 questions, but I basically had to keep the very short list to 2 or 3 inquiries at the most. Yeah, she let me ask 3 questions. I remember that. She has you visit the restroom and prepare to visit, albeit briefly, another time and another place of your existence of your soul. This was no small adventure I was about to embark on. I had awoken early and basically prayed to the angels for 4 hours about what was about to happen. I was actually really scared. Scared's not really the right word. I was nervous. I had butterflies. I wondered. I fretted, but I wasn't scared. I talked about and asked for many things. I asked to be able to heal from my constant chronic pain. I asked to have a clear notion about the purpose of my life. I asked the angels to stay with me while I explored, and I asked them to consider the others in the room who might also need healing. Soon it was 9 a.m. and class began with much anticipation. Dolores had a bed rolled into the conference room. She wanted her subject to be comfy and to follow in her regular MO, her modus operandi, in a regression session. Well, that bed was the single most horrible, used up, beaten up jangle of springs and batting I have ever laid eyes on in my life. And laid on in my life. I shudder to think about its history. Oh God, it's true. I should have just laid on the floor. Oh, look, I even say that. The floor would have easily been more comfortable than this thing could have doubled as a torture device to my chronic pain-challenged body. God, it really could. I still have a memory of the springs in my back. But I valiantly attempted to make do and make myself comfortable. I shoved a couple of pillows under my back and rear end and tried to get comfortable. Actually, at this very moment, a student in the class came up to me and whispered something to me so amazing and life-changing, I started to weep. Really amazing. That small moment and that story is so big, I cannot begin to tell it now, but at the end of this post, I can tell you a tiny bit more about what she said. I remember that very clearly. So I closed my eyes, and in a very, very short amount of time, I was taken to my beautiful place. I was aware of what was happening, but I was relaxing more and more. And in her sing-song, quiet and soothing voice, Dolores asked me questions, and I answered them. At first, my nose itched and my shoulders ached, but I didn't move at all. And except for crying a couple of muscle spasms, I did not move at all for 90 minutes. My beautiful place is a place I go to when I meditate. It's a place of healing. It's an open pavilion, a place with running water and flowers and all kinds of animals and angels. This is the place I started out in my mind. Dolores asked if anyone was with me, and I said yes. Archangel Raphael was behind me by my left shoulder, and he was going to go with me on my regression. Dolores suggested we sit down on a cloud and head to a relevant life. I felt elbows being supported by angels on either side. Archangel Michael was on the other side. and I floated down the clouds, and I felt my feet touch the ground. I was still standing maybe 20 yards from a large rock face of a hill. I described it as a rock wall to Dolores, but I didn't mean anything built by humans. I was asked to look around, and it took a while to see anything else, but I finally did. And towards the left was a small opening in the wall. Dolores asked if I wanted to explore inside. I don't like caves, I think I said this more than once. I don't know, did I? Dolores persisted and assured me I was safe, and I walked closer. I walked slowly, and with every step closer to that dark, small opening, I began to remember just exactly who I was, what my life here was all about. And at this point, I say this is to be continued to tomorrow. So I guess I made a second post. And, what about the lovely student and what she whispered to me? Okay. She told me she saw angels. And she saw more angels than she had ever seen in any one place at any one time. And they were surrounding me, and they were reaching high into the heavens. How cool is that? To be continued on the next post. So I remember we were in a hotel ballroom, right? And the ceilings were really high. And I remember looking up towards the ceilings and her pointing all the way up there. So here's my next post. I guess, so what I'm reading is from my blog, which I wrote in July of 2008, but the support forum itself didn't get its beginnings until December. My life as a caveman continued. I stood looking at the cave, remembering. First, the memories came as waves of feeling, and then they were interspersed with details in the life. The angels still stood beside both sides of me. Now, I'd actually forgotten that, but it's true. They were like flanking me while I was looking at the cave before I really stepped fully into the life. Dolores asked me if I wanted to go into the cave. Nope. Nope, diddy, nope, nope. No, I didn't really want to go into that cave, and the pit of my stomach turned cold. This cave was not a fun or lovely place. I was not sure I wanted to feel or remember anything about it or this life or anything. All kinds of crummy feelings were coming up. Dolores reminded me that I was safe, and she persuaded me to go ahead and go inside. I think she said something like, let's go find out. We're going to go find out why you're being shown this. Okay, Dolores. And in parentheses, I write, the skill of the hypnotist really became apparent to me here. I would not have gone into the cave on my own at all. I would have just stood there or walked away. And it's true. It's true. And even to this day, this is something to pay attention to. Just because your client's uncomfortable about something doesn't mean you run away from it. There's a reason that it's being presented. All right, the angels walked with me to the opening, but they left after I went inside the cave. Gosh, I forgot that. I forgot that. I mean, it has been 17 years, right? It was a small cave. I had to duck my head to go in. It was pretty shallow inside as well, and it certainly did not go far into the mountain or the hill. As I stood inside looking around in the darkness, I had bits of memory flit by like insects. I remember how I found the cave and how it became my home. It afforded me some measure of safety from the very largest of the animals that might want to make me their dinner. But only if I was on my guard. I would have to position myself just so as to not be trapped and drug out as an easy dinner by a big cat or a bear. I have memories of snarls and paws reaching in for my flesh while I cowered in terror. And I remember it being on this side, right? So this part of the cave over on this side was a little deeper, and if I just kind of hit up against the wall there, I could maybe be safe, but not if I was anywhere near the opening, because I'd just be drug out. Boy, I do remember that. I have memories of snarls and paws reaching for my flesh while I cowered in terror. And the thing about caves, well, every creature seems to want a cave. So, it was a lot of people's, a lot of beings, a lot of animals' homes, kind of depending on who was there at any given time. Every snake, wild dog, and even other humans. It was only, and I say humans, but maybe I really mean early humans or caveman. It was only really my cave if I was standing in it. Boy, that's true. Leaving for any length of time was like setting out an invitation for rent sign. Dolores asked me to look at my feet. Was I wearing shoes or clothes? What did I see? I answered hair. I was very hairy. I had big, flat, hairy, red feet and lots of hair on my legs. I think I wore a modest animal skin covering around my waist, but I don't know. Nothing really stays firm in my memory about that. And if I did, it was certainly nothing fancy. I was male, and I have no idea how old I was, but I was not a child and I was not elderly. It seemed like I was a fairly young man. Dolores took me through a typical day, and we found out about how hard it was to feed myself. We talked about how I found food, what I ate, and what my daily life was like. We discovered I was an outcast of sorts. I did not fit in with the others. I say humans again. The other humans that lived nearby. For one thing, I was red, and most of those other humans were darker brown to black in coloring. This made me suspect from the very start. The other big reason I was shunned was because I annoyed the others by wanting to try things to help us survive that were new. Anything new, any ideas offered that were unfamiliar created fear and mistrust among my kind. There was little cooperation or friendliness. Leadership was won by brute strength alone, and I have no memory of anything, and I have no memory of anything one could term love from this lifetime. Gosh, I'd forgotten that too. Dolores soon took me to the day of my death. I was still quite young, and I was still alone. And in the end, I was ambushed and killed for being different. How strange, to have a memory like this. I have a clear vision of the minutes that led up to my death. I had a few moments to comprehend what was about to occur. I was going to die. There was no question about it. There was no way out. And I was not so much afraid as I was sad. Which is interesting because the only time in my current life I thought I was going to die was when I was pregnant and coding in the hospital with my second child. And I wasn't afraid then either. I was just deeply, deeply sad for my family and my child. I was not even angry with my killers. Of course, we're back to the regression, of course. I was not even angry with my killers. I can still see the leader's snarling face and the mob mentality of the group as they came at me with sharpened sticks and spears. It was over with pretty fast. I felt no pain. And I left that body shortly before I died. And I don't even know, I may have even left it before it hit the ground. I don't know. The interesting thing about the Cannon method and what it distinguishes it from other past life regressions and other methods is that after the death of the person, Dolores takes you to what she refers to as the subconscious. Now here I get very picky already, and I say I prefer the term collective unconscious. But you know what? I didn't stick with that. So it shows you how old this is. Or even better, the superconscious. And sometimes I use that too. It all depends. Dolores asks then the subconscious to assess this life and to answer questions and to also assist in healing. Many, if not most, regressionists only perform half of their job by Cannon's standards, by only asking these questions of the personality itself. I will save sharing the second part of my regression for another time and perhaps another place. I will say the information gleaned from My subconscious was fascinating and affirming, and in the end, absolutely healing and life-changing. I recommend the experience most highly. Now, who wants to be my first client? So this was me writing and reposting some of those words from my blog in July of 2008. But that's how I opened the support forum, was with this first post. And then it went out to friends, and then they sent it to friends, and I did the best I could to find email addresses of previous students. And that's how we started. And to this day, we support QHHT practitioners. And I'm thrilled that in the year of 2025 that Dolores Cannon is maybe known by more humans now than she even was at the time of her passing. I bet that tickles her. I know it tickles me. All right, I've got to get to other things. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you have enjoyed this, if you would like to join us at quantumhealers.com as a service to others practitioner, please consider joining us. We'd love, love, love to have you. And you don't have to do past life regression or work just like this. Just being an energy healer, an alternative healer of any kind, or even a coach or a therapist or a counselor, you are welcome to join us. We'd love to have you. Again, that's quantumhealers.com. Guru free. Very easy to join. See you there. All right. Till next time. Bye, everyone.